Hello and welcome. My name is Jesse Cook. Today I will be talking about operating systems and firewall hardening. The first thing we will be talking about today is what is an operating system. An operating system is any software that allows a user to run applications on a computing device. While it is possible for software application to interface directly with hardware, the vast majority of applications are written for operating systems, which allows them to take advantage of common libraries and not worry about the specific hardware details. The operating system manages a computer's hardware resources, including input devices such as keyboard and mouse, output devices such as displays, monitors, printers, and scanners, network devices such as modems, routers, and network connections, and storage devices such as internal and external hard drives. There are three main OS components. The first one is kernel. This provides basic level control over all of the computer hardware devices, so its main roles include reading and writing data to memory, processing execution orders, and determining how data is received and sent. A second main component is user interference. This component allows interaction with the user, which may occur through graphical icons in a desktop or through command line. The third and final component is application programming interface. This component allows application developers to write modular code. There are many types of operating systems. These are just some of the many different ones that are available. The main three would be Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux's Ubuntu. One of the operating systems that we will be working with this semester is Windows Server 2012 version R2. Its codename is Windows Server 8. It is the fifth release of the Windows Server series. There are many new features on this version, including GUI-less install options, improved Hyper-V to version 3.0, and improved PowerShell to version 3.0. The other operating system that we'll be using this semester is Ubuntu 17.10. Its codename is the Artful Aardvark. It is a Linux-made operating system whose new features include using GNOME as the default desktop environment rather than the Unity versions that were in previous builds. Window controls have moved to the right side, whereas they were on the left side in previous builds. It also uses the brand new Linux kernel version 4.1.3. Now that we know what kind of operating systems we are working with, we must look at how to harden them. Hardening the operating system is the act of configuring an OS securely, updating it, creating rules and policies to help govern the system in a secure manner. This is done to minimize a computer operating system's exposure to threats and to mitigate possible risk. When a device is hardened, it is secure as it can possibly be while still communicating with the outside network. Some of the best steps to harden a device are the use of service packs. Keep up to date and install the latest versions of the operating systems. These are called service packs. These updates patch security risks and fix bugs, so keeping them updated is one of the best steps in hardening. The next step is to remove unnecessary programs. Every program is another potential entrance point for a hacker. Cleaning these out will help you limit the number of ways in. If the program is not something that has been vetted, then it should not be allowed. Attackers look for backdoors and security holes when attempting to compromise networks. This will minimize their chances of getting through. The next step would be limiting user privileges. Users are often the most dangerous threat to any device. Limiting their privileges can often limit the amount of risk that a device will be exposed to. This will also require users to need approval for installation of programs, so this will also help with limiting unnecessary programs that are installed on the device. Another step is patch management. Testing, implementing, and auditing patch management software should be done regularly to keep the OS secure. Keeping the individual programs on the device updated and patched will provide better application security and general bug fixes that will help programs run smoother. Another step would be the use of group policies. Group policies define what groups can or can't access and maintain these rules. Sometimes it's simply user error that leads to a successful cyber attack. Establish and update user policies and ensure all users are aware and comply with these procedures. Security templates are group policies that work best when used in corporate environments. They are group policies that can be loaded in one procedure and used many times across different departments. Some more steps that we can take to harden a system are the proper use of baselines. Baselining is the process of measuring changes in network, hardware, software, and etc. to create a baseline. Select something to measure and measure it consistently for a period of time. Once you measure on a schedule, you can see changes in your environment over time. The next step would be password management. Create rules on the OS for only strong level passwords and have rules that cause passwords to expire after a certain amount of time. This keeps all user passwords strong and new. The next step would be old user expiration. Create rules within the operating system that will expire a user after a certain amount of time has passed. This will delete old users from the system, which is a common cause of network exposure. This also includes removing users who have been removed from the company as soon as possible. Another very important step to take would be to set up an online backup. This backs up the device's operating systems often and store the encrypted backups in an online location so it cannot be corrupted. Many programs are used to do this on a schedule, and they will make it easy to restore the device from an image. The last step would be to configure the firewall on the operating system, which we will talk about more in the next couple slides. Next, we will be talking about firewalls. You may ask, what are firewalls? Firewalls are any device that is on the perimeter of the inner network. They defend important network resources. They can also validate access to the network. They manage and control all network traffic, and they also log all network events. There are many different types of firewalls. A firewall can be described as being either stateful or stateless. Stateless firewalls watch network traffic and restrict or block packets based on source and destination IP or other static values. A stateless firewall, also known as an access control list, does not statefully inspect traffic. The other types of firewalls are packet filtering. Packet filtering is a firewall technique used to control network access by monitoring outgoing and incoming packets and allowing them to pass or halt based on the source and destination IP address, protocols, and ports. An application layer firewall is a form of firewall that controls input, output, and access by a certain application or service. Circuit level gateways work at the session layer of the OSI model, between the application and the transport layer of the TCP/IP stack. Now that we know the different types of firewalls, we must talk about how to harden them. One of the most important rules of hardening a firewall would be keeping the updated operating system on the device. Keeping the newest version of Firewall OS will ensure all security holes have been patched and the device will operate smoother. Another step would be to have a strong firewall password. Your firewall password is one of the most important passwords on a network because changes made on it can cause several devices to be exposed to threats. You must expire this password frequently. If remote access is needed on your network, configure it safely through your firewall. The next step would be to harden your firewall's rule base. This rule base is the basis of how the device is set up and who and what it will let on the network. Maintaining and updating this rule base is also a very important rule, as networks consistently change, and this can cause loopholes in your security if not maintained properly. We must also harden the firewalls that are on the operating systems themselves. To harden a Windows 2012 firewall, we must stop unnecessary services from running. We must also back up the firewall image with the operating system. This will keep all settings the same if a backup does need to occur. You must also manage port access. Ports are ways in and out of a device, so managing these doors will prevent unnecessary users from accessing. Another important step would be to run Windows Security Configuration Wizard. This tool will look at your device and see if there are any current security risk in your environment, and then you can make changes according to its information. Another important step is to encrypt all non-domain communication. This means all communication that the device does with the outside network will be encrypted safely. Another important step would be to set up network logging. This will cause the firewall to log all network connections that are made and let you reference them in case of an attack. Ubuntu uses IP tables as a firewall. The steps that we must take to harden this is to enable SE Linux, which is a security-enabled version of Linux. You must also update your policies often. Restrict and monitor ports is another important step, as this controls who and what can come in and out of a device. Looking for open ports and closing them is an important security task. We must also make clear rule sets. Confusing and long rule sets can cause items to slip by the firewall. Making clear and simple rule sets will cause these loopholes not to occur. We must also save our rule sets frequently, as the non-saving of them can cause loss of rules, which will open security loopholes. We must also ensure that network logging is enabled so that you can log all connections in and out in the case of an attack and backtrack. And this brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you for watching. My sources for the information that was given before is following.